I am really excited to talk to everybody about tools, tactics, and metrics for engagement. I know Wednesday afternoon is the perfect time to talk about metrics because it's everybody's favorite topic, right? But bear with me because this is going to be fun, I hope. So I want to start out actually just by asking you, what is the first set of metrics? What's the first data point you remember? You guys can put it in the chat. You can put it in Slack. Go right ahead. And maybe it was, if you grew up in a baseball family, maybe it was baseball stats of your favorite baseball player, or maybe you remember the score of your first sports game. I remember the first time I played football on a school team, we lost handily, and try to forget that metric. But I think if you're like many of us here and you were raised in the church, your first metric that you might have remembered possibly came from Sunday school, right? 5 loaves, 2 fish, 5,000 people. A lot of you are probably knowing what story I'm talking about, right? Jesus had a crowd around him in a secluded area. He was healing and teaching, and everybody was hungry, and his disciples only had 5 loaves and 2 fish. And they said, send everybody away so that we can feed them. And Jesus said, no, you feed them. And they gave him the loaves and fish, and he broke it and passed it out, and everybody ate until they were satisfied. And it says it was 5,000 men ate besides the women and children, so 5,000 plus. And you might be asking why I'm recounting this story, and I'm recounting it because metrics are important. This was an incredible miracle, and if we retell the story without the metrics, we probably all would have missed it, right? So the story would go something like this. There was a group of people that were listening to a sermon, and they all got hungry, and somebody brought out food, and they ate till they were satisfied. If you're like me, you're probably thinking, that sounds like the church picnic that we went to a few weeks ago, or a potluck dinner. It doesn't sound like a miracle, right? Was it a miracle? Absolutely. Would we have recognized it as a miracle? I don't think I would have. And so metrics are important to your ministry. And I want to make this point because part of the reason that I get so excited talking about metrics, and I wanted to use this topic, is because I believe God is moving in your ministries. And that probably means there are miraculous things in your analytics account just waiting to be discovered, because it's probably the last place that we look for miracles. So hopefully that gives you a different idea and a different perspective on how you can use your metrics for ministry engagement. But it also probably leaves you asking, how do we find these miracles in our metrics, right? Because there are so many numbers out there that are available. If you open up Google Analytics or any other program, you'll find that it's a little overwhelming. Even for somebody like me who loves data, you kind of have to take a minute and get oriented to find the right data that you want. So if you're not somebody that loves numbers and loves data, I'm going to try to simplify it for you. And this tactic really only has 2 parts. And the first part is know your mission, know what you're trying to accomplish. And the second part is know what it looks like when you've accomplished it. I loved Tabitha's comment about do they experience relief, hope, and I'm forgetting the third one off the top of my head, but she actually has a framework for knowing if the design was successful, if the innovation happened. And I'm taking this kept promise indicators topic from a book that we use at 5Q called Scaling Up, and it goes deep on a lot of things. But for today, I'm just going to keep it shallow. The book talks about your brand promise. It's made for the marketplace, but in our context, that would be your ministry's mission, your vision, what you're trying to accomplish. And then it ties it to what they call KPIs. You know, we know KPIs as key performance indicator, but they call it kept promise indicators. So as you go through your day, as you go through your work, how are you able to tell if you've kept your promise, kept your mission, kept your vision, moving it forward? And this is something that you're probably going to have to think about a little bit. It's a different way of thinking through things than most people have experienced. And so I really encourage you to take that back to your team and talk about it and say, how do we know if we accomplished our mission today? And what numbers can we point to? And I'll give you some examples. This one is from the Bowery, which is a rescue mission in New York City. And right on their homepage, they say the Bowery Mission serves homeless and hungry New Yorkers and provides services to meet their immediate needs and transform their lives from poverty and hopelessness to hope. And further down on their homepage, they have those kept promise indicators for the meet their immediate needs portion of that, right? 429,000 meals served, 104,000 nights of shelter, 27,000 articles of clothing. Those are all miracles, and they're all ways that you can look and they can look and know that they're actually doing what they set out to do. Another example is Got Questions, right? Their entire thing is your questions, biblical answers. And then right on the homepage, again, they're showcasing almost 670,000 Bible questions answered. So they're able to say, this is what we do. We take your questions, and this is how we want to engage with you, right? You send us your questions, we give you biblical answers. And then the last example is from All About God Ministries. And simply put, if you go to their website, their mission is to share the good news with the globe via the World Wide Web. And the metric that they look at is the number of people who respond and tell them that they have made a first-time commitment to receive Jesus Christ as their Lord as a result of the content. So it's very outcome-based, and they can look at that and say, yes, we are doing what we set out to do, right? We're sharing the gospel. People are responding to it. That's how we know we've had success. And so as you think about your ministry, it's often times that we think about metrics in terms of how many website visitors that we're getting, how many donations we're getting. But I'm going to challenge you today to look at those kept promise indicators and say, how can we know that we are accomplishing our mission? And once you do that, you can actually build context for all of your other ministry activities, right? I pulled this example of a Facebook post that was in my feed and put out the question, was this a successful post? Well, there's no context, so there's not really a right or wrong answer. If your goal of the post was to get people to think about things and have a reaction, it got 135 likes. So that was pretty successful. If your goal was to provide content for people to share with their audience so that they can talk about what you're doing, 43 shares, that sounds pretty successful. You know, we talked about that in the awareness channel, right? So if that's your goal for the post, a lot of people shared. If your goal was to start a conversation with your Facebook audience or Facebook group, it's probably not a successful post because there are 0 comments on this post, right? So it is the context that should drive your engagement and the way that you engage with your audience, with the people that you serve, and really with your team. And then now that we're past the tactics, I'm going to offer up just a couple tools that I think can add value, because once you have identified your kept promise indicators and are moving your mission forward, you want to be able to share that, right? And so a couple options for creating a dashboard. One is Google Analytics itself. Most of you are probably already using Google Analytics. And if you are, it actually has the ability to build customized reports. If you've upgraded to GA4, you get customized reports. If you're still using a earlier version, then they actually do have a custom dashboard option. The limitation of this is nice because it's free and your data's all there. You just have to mix it around. The limitation of this is that it's only data that's contained within Google Analytics. So there are some factors that you won't necessarily see, like how many questions are in your database for biblical answers, or how many meals did you serve this year. Those types of things are harder to see because they're not necessarily in Google Analytics. So another tool that we use at 5Q, because it's simple, because it has lots of integrations, and it is cost effective, it is a paid tool, is Agency Analytics. And it allows you to pull from all different sources and just create a shareable dashboard that you can have just your critical numbers available. So really to summarize and wrap things up, I hope that you walk away from this understanding that metrics can help you get the full picture of what's going on in your ministry, and they can help you tell if you're actually achieving what you're working towards. And then I want you to talk to your team and try to find your kept promise indicators. How do you actually know that you've achieved your mission, that you've moved your mission forward today? And how does your team know that? And then create a dashboard so that you can share what God's doing in your ministry, at the very least with your team, but hopefully also with your donors and your supporters in your community, so that everybody can see the great things that God is doing in your ministry. I hope that was a blessing to you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.